basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are required for the next topic. Okay, so let's say from the W3 school, I think we are lagging behind. So even though you got all this time, we did not perform well. Okay, so let's say let's say in HTML, let's say at least first part, first and second till forms. Okay, let's say at least basics, and then basically forms. You should know what is HTML forms. It's very basics. So if you're not able to complete at least this part, it's very difficult for us to like complete the sub later stage. Little CSS. Okay, I don't want you to be master, not advanced. It is basic. What is a font and what is a color, how to change. So those basic stuffs are required. And JavaScript is nothing but Java. Okay, so I don't think so you will need more time. Let's say arrays, sort, everything is same. Say copy to copy Java. JavaScript is nothing but a Java only, right? Whatever the code you're going to write, it's similar kind of Java code. So you can see at least basically here at basics. Okay, so at least basic JavaScript you have to know. There is no escape. You cannot escape from that. In SQL, if you do not complete SQL, also is very important part, because we are going to start JDBC after servlet. Okay, so if you these 4 topics that I already gave you, right? That at the time of the starting our class, because I cannot teach each and everything here, because instead of 35 hours, we are going to take almost 50 hours of a class is going to go. And it doesn't make any sense for me to cover these 3. Okay, because it's a basic thing. If you can't do it yourself, you cannot be a Java developer, right? That means you are at the wrong place. So if you think you are not able to do by yourself HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and SQL, then it's very basic thing. Okay, so now let's move and let's create one simple example. Okay, so there are different kind of projects. Okay, so we can create a Maven web project. Okay, as well as like in simply you can create dynamic web project. Okay, so there are 2 ways to create a web application in Eclipse. Okay, for now we are focusing on the Eclipse. I will give you the time, okay, today, like to just perform this exercise. So let's say go new. Okay, so and then basically let's say project. Okay, and then basically I'm going very slow. Okay, so if you want to write it down, let's say you go dynamic web project. Okay, so here you can see it's a dynamic web project. Right click here in the project explorer. Okay, then you will basically go to create a project, and then in the project you write like kind of dynamic, and then we'll see dynamic web project. Okay, so now I will show both the ways. Okay, like one is the Maven and without Maven. So this is without Maven. We are not going to use Maven. I hope that everybody knows what is Maven and why we are using Maven, and we are not going to use this project. Okay, like always we are going to use Maven web project at always. Okay, so now let's say sample web demo. I'm just giving any name for now. Okay, I'm just going to give next. Okay, this is my classes folder. Next, here basically content, web content, and this is my project name. I'm finishing. Okay, so now this is my here these are the different perspective, Java and then Java E. Okay, if you don't see all these options here, you can click here and then you can add different option like say Java, Git, Java E, all these things. So now let's say what is a sample web project looks like. Let me see.
And it's about Spring 3.
Yeah, this one simple. Okay, so now you can see this is our project structure. Okay, let's say here web inf lib. Okay, all this folder structure. So now let me just put simple HTML file. Okay, simple HTML file. Let's say simple here. Basically, I'm creating a file index dot HTML. Normally we are going to create JSP. Okay, so but for now I'm just creating. Let's start with the JSP always. Okay, you can create HTML also, but for now we are going to use only HTML content. Okay, you can just use like a simple HTML content too. So now basically I can just okay, I can just copy simple hello world from HTML5 or something. Okay, let me just copy paste little simple. Okay, so this is basically HTML5 syntax. Okay, so now I want to run this. Okay, so I need Tomcat. This is a web application. So to run, this is not a simple Java program that you can right click and run. So let's say when you run this one, this page will be rendered first time. So if you want to run, you need a Tomcat. So let's say you run on server. Okay, right click on the project and run on server. And then here basically you have to, let's say if you don't have, let's say server you did not choose, so here you have to choose the server. Let's say whatever the highest version. Okay, let's say you can choose 8 point, don't choose 10. Okay, for now 10 has a lot of changes, so just go till 9.0. Tomcat is a, I will explain what is Tomcat is an application server or web server, whatever you can say. So let's say use any of the server. Okay, you don't, okay, so what you need to do, okay, so you don't need to start externally to use in the Eclipse. Let's say if you go ahead, okay, and then if anybody, let's say uh, google.ca. Okay, so let's say if you let's say download, let's say Tomcat. I'm not sure, like everybody might use different version, but you can just write down on maybe let's say we just click couple of links. Okay, you might find the downloading. Okay, so let's say you can see here, let's say there are different versions. Let's say this tar file, you can download the tar file and then you can extract it. So and then once you extract, okay, so I have basically extracted somewhere. I have just put software, and then you can see like Tomcat I have maybe 9 version, right? So let's say you can see the number 9 version, so it will be look like this, same like Java. You have bin, conf, lib, logs, web apps, right? So this is how basically the folder, same like Java has this all folder, right? Bin and everything. So you have to extract this here somewhere. Okay, so now let's go here. So I have a 9 version, so I'm selecting Tomcat 9. Okay, and then basically here basically I first time it will automatically ask, but here you can configure. Okay, let's say let me just remove this. I have, let's say Tomcat 9. Okay, you can edit. For you, you have to add. Okay, for you have to click add, and then you here click, and then you can next, and then it will ask you what is the location. Okay, so let's say here is my location, right? My Tomcat version is here, and then what version Java you are using, JDK 1.8. In I hope that everybody remember like how to set the Java in the Windows project level or the workspace level, and then you can see here. Okay, so I already set, that's why basically I don't need to set it again, so I'm just using it as it is. Okay, now I have a lot of project left hand side, but this is my project I want to run right now. I'm selecting this one and finishing off. Okay, so my server Tomcat is getting start. You can see all this thing is getting started on the port 8080. Okay, and then basically you will see like my first page will be loaded here. My first heading. Okay, so whatever the page is here. So my application is getting loaded, right? The main page here is getting loaded here, right? My application here is running on HTTP's protocol. I will explain you soon theory, right? But I want everyone to set up at least this one project. Okay, so and then basically 8080 is my port, and this is my application root, context root of my application, and then by default it will load index.jsp or index.html by default. So this is the simple dynamic web project. So let's say I don't want to use this dynamic web project. Let's say I want to use Maven project. Okay, so you need to go like project here. Okay, here instead of selecting the dynamic project, you have to choose Maven project. Okay, so here you can see like Maven project. The same way we have been creating for the Maven project. So only difference here is earlier what we used to check this one, right? Create simple project, but now we don't need to check this one. Okay, so we need to go next. Okay, and then basically here basically it will load. Okay, it is my internet is little slow, so it will take time here, but for you it will not take time. Okay, so here basically you can write it down something web app. Okay, it will filter it out. Okay, and then basically we have to choose uh Maven, not this one, Maven. uh, just a minute. org.apache. This one, okay. Org Apache Maven archetype here, group ID, and then this one, this version. Okay, so this one you have to select. I cannot copy it, but org search for here. You can write it on org Apache Maven archetype web app. Okay, then basically you can go next. Okay, here basically group ID. I hope that everybody knows what is a group ID, and I'm not creating a splitting app, but I just create, let's say, sample web demo. Okay, here basically demo web 59. Okay, 59 basically I'm just giving demo web. So this is basically artifact ID. I hope that you know what is artifact ID, because we have already been creating this. Okay, so packaging package, what is this package? Let it be. Okay, so now we have basically add version and everything, whatever it is. Okay, I don't want to go to advanced. Advanced is not required at all. Now we can finish it off. Okay, so basically my Maven project, my Maven web project. Okay, so Maven web project will be ready. See, there is no difference. We know, like, normal project we have been creating, and then Maven project always we are going to work with the Maven, but I need to show you both the ways. That's why basically I was trying to explain you. So let me see. Actually, I need to clean up all this project now. I have lots of project I have gathered here. Let's see, I put a number. Okay, D, start with D. Yeah, this one. Okay, so this is our Maven project. Okay, so currently, like, uh, this has not been created properly. Just let me see. Okay, why? Let me see here, because my Java version has not set properly. Okay, so you can see this two build path entry is missing. So let me just, sometimes that plugin takes the older version of the Java. So you have to make sure that you are giving a proper version of the Java. Okay, so let's say proper version you have to set in the project once project has been created. And once you change the version, you have to change the compiler too, right? So let's say you have to change the compiler too. Okay, so compiler. Okay, let me see if there is any error yet. I don't. Okay, I don't think so. Any error here now. Okay, we have basically source main here, basically web app. Okay, index.jsp has already been created for us. Okay, this is hello world. Here web.xml. Okay, I will explain you what is web.xml and everything, because it's very important file. Web.xml is a web descriptor file. So now let's say here the same way, right? You can just right click. Okay, run on server. Okay, I already have set up this one, so I'm just gonna basically run that application. I just remove this one. Okay, whatever. I just want to run this one. Similar way, you can run this project. Okay, this one is started already. Let me just stop it, because otherwise it will not work. Okay, let me just delete all the server. Otherwise it's confusing. Okay. Okay. Okay, Tomcat 9. I already configured it here, so I'm okay. Next, this one finish. Okay, now my simple, this is not servlet, okay, at all. This simple Tomcat server. I'm running simple application, web application with JSP or HTML. Even I'm just rendering the web application, simple. This is not even servlet. We are not even using servlet now. Okay, so the simple application using Maven, as well as using like simple dynamic web project. Okay, so these are the steps you have to follow. Okay, any question before I give you the time? Okay, so now I will give you next 15 minutes. So I want everyone, okay, to do the same exercise which I did here. Okay, so what you can do, right? Maybe you guys can discuss with each other. Okay, maybe I'm fine. I won't be there for next 15 minutes here. Okay, so you guys can discuss with each other. Okay, and then basically try to create both the ways one by one. Okay, and then basically we'll start uh, understanding in detail. Okay, make sense? Are you guys okay? Any question?
No, sir.
How many of you are able to relate now? The things which Samir, are you able to relate what mistake you made?
Yeah, but when I am here, I followed all your steps, but I do not, when I right click and I do not have any option when in the run as pop-up.
Because your project was not the web project. You can only run as only web project, not the simple Java project.
Okay.
In simple project, this is Java project. You cannot get run as server on server. It's
Yeah,
a web,
I was following the same steps
web
as you.
project on the web project.
Yes.
Then you should get it. Oh, maybe what Eclipse you are using?
Uh,
Did you download the Java when you install the Eclipse? Did you download Eclipse for Java developer only or Java EE
yeah, I
developer?
have Eclipse ID for Java developers.
Yeah, so that's you have to change it. So you have to use Java EE developer when you
I
install.
had same problem, sir. Like
Yeah,
Okay.
I was having
that's
Java
why
developer
that's why you will never
dependency.
get this option run on server.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's try to fix. Okay, guys, like whatever the problem we have, let's try to fix the environment first. Okay, so and then basically we move on. Anybody else has any question? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, let's try it here. Okay, otherwise we'll never do it. Okay, so let's take 15-20 minutes. Okay, and then basically if you have any question, I will help you out. Okay, and then we'll do basics today. Don't worry, like if you are not able to do much today, I don't mind. Okay, so but at least let's see whatever we can do. Because I know like you all are basically still lagging behind in the terms of assignment. I don't want to pile up another more assignments. But like I cannot go slow all the time. So just increase your speed. Otherwise, what happen? Like then every time I will not compromise. Then what happen? I will continue, and then things will pile up on you, right? So, uh, like sometimes basically I have to understand, but sometimes you also have to understand. Okay, so okay, that's fine. You guys can carry on. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, so now we are moving to the second phase, right? So it's a web technology. So first of all, we will try to understand some basic terms and terminology of the web application. These are the very basic fundamentals. So there are two kind of websites exist. Okay, so one is the static and one is the dynamic. So static website means there has no user interactions and there is no dynamism in the website. That's called the static website. So now you can see like whatever the Java T point currently we are trying to access, that you can see like it's just a purely content, right? So you cannot basically change a content or post a content, or you cannot do the chat. So it's not a dynamic content basically. At the same time, you can see like Gmail or Facebook or Amazon or any other applications. Sorry. Yeah. So those websites contains the dynamic, like blog example. It's a blog. As soon as you write the blog, something it is posting on the website. So it's basically a user driven thing. So those has basically some content which is dynamic, which is not static. So that here basically if you go ahead and read it, so there is a website static versus dynamic. So you can go ahead and read it. I'm not going to go in details and then read it. This is a theory. Now HTTP, it's a hypertext transfer protocol. So let's just try to understand in layman terms. So let's say currently we are talking in English. So we all know the English, right? So in English, everybody knows there are 26 alphabets, A to Z, upper letters, small letters. So those protocol, we know grammar. Grammar is nothing but a protocol. Rules and regulation, how you communicate and how you make a sentence in English. So HTTP is a protocol. It's a communication protocol. You can see like it's a communication protocol. Same way like English. in grammar, right? It's a communication protocol. Like when we are talking right now, we are talking, right? So we use continuous tense. So present continuous tense. Currently we are talking. So what does it mean? It's a protocol. So the same way here, let's say is HTTP whenever client. Okay. So first of all, we need to understand what is a client and server. Now here communications you can see here between communication between client and server. So what is client and what is server? So client means, let's say currently browser. Okay, let's say this is my browser. So this is my client. Okay, so here you can see here, currently I'm trying to access this website. Currently I'm trying to access this website. So this is not running in my local machine. So this website I did not deploy in my local application, or it is not running on my machine. So this application basically is running somewhere else in the internet. Okay, so now let's try to understand what. Okay, so this is the protocol HTTP. So there are two things: HTTP, HTTPS. HTTPS is a secure protocol. HTTP is a simple hypertext transfer protocol. That's what basically we are trying to access here. Then JavaTPoint.com. Okay, this is the DNS name. Okay, so like what exactly happened? Let's say whenever you go buy in your domain, I don't know how many of you know about domain and everything. So let's say if you go, let's say currently I have my website, let's say MiT.tech. So MiT.tech is just a name. Okay, so MiT.tech is not an address. Okay, it's just a name. So what happened, like in this world, we have DNS server, www. Okay, so what exactly happened is against this JavaTPoint.com, there is one server is registered, one IP address. Okay, so at the end of the day, this will be resolved to one IP address. So currently, let's say we are running one application, let's say in local, let's say HTTP localhost, and then let's say currently we are running this simple application right here. Let's say this is my application. Okay, let's say I'm running in browser. So you can see here, this is printing. So currently what happened, like localhost means my current machine, local means my local machine. So localhost, I hope that everybody has a fundamental of IP address is clear. IP address is nothing but an address of your machine, okay, which can be uniquely identified on the internet. Okay, so that's called the IP address of your machine. So currently the IP like localhost can be identified different ways. Okay, so let me just write it down something here. Okay, this is our batch, right? Okay. Let's say IP address, DNS, HTTP, HTTPS, then let's say localhost. Okay, and then localhost identified as 127.0.0.1. Okay, port number. Okay, so port, let's say my currently web application by default is running on 8080. Okay, so our application, like our machines has a different port. Okay, so your web application by default is running on 8080 port. So you can configure this in the server.xml. Okay, so we'll see that too, right? So how basically we can change it. So now another concept is basically client and server. Okay, static and dynamic, whatever basically we learn. So what is client and server? So client basically, let's say this is my client and this is my server. Okay, so now just take an example. Let's say client, this is the browser. Okay, so it might be possible your server might be running on localhost or anywhere on the internet, which can be accessible, internet or intranet. Okay, it might be possible. Intranet means local network. Okay, it's not on internet. Okay, so maybe client is sending a request and then it is responding back. So this communication between client and server is happening in the HTTP protocol. So they both can understand this protocol, how to talk to each other using this common standard. That's why HTTP is a communication protocol. So in HTTP, basically there are different methods: get, put, post, delete. So same way, like in English, basically we have different tenses, 12 tenses to talk to each other. So same way, basically to perform some actions from client to server, we have different set of protocols. Okay, so this is called the HTTP protocol. Okay, so HTTP is hypertext transfer protocol. This is a communication protocol between client and server. Okay, okay, now let's talk about a little bit about the server. Maybe this is the next topic too, right? So, but I will basically cover whenever it comes. So now, first we understand that what is HTTP. Now let's say HTTP request little bit and get and post. Let's try to understand a little bit on that. So as I mentioned, there are different kind of requests: get, post, hit, trace, put, delete option. So these are the different kind of requests we have in HTTP protocol. So this is the way that client can send the data, receive the data from server. So at the end of the day, client is getting the almost of the data from the server. Client is not generating the data. Let's say right now I'm accessing the website. What actually you are doing? What I'm doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm just getting the data from the server. So server, what is server? Server, you can see like I started my server here, Tomcat 90 server at localhost. Currently my application is running on this server, localhost. Okay, I'm accessing from the internet. It's not an internet. Okay, it's my localhost. That's why I'm easily accessible here. My application. This is my port number. This is my localhost IP address, and this is my context root. Okay, make sure the context root is also another important concept. Now, get versus post. So I will explain you like once I will create simple example. At that time also I will show you in the example, like I will showcase you like how exactly the data will be transferred differently from the get and post. But this difference is very important. So get, whatever the data you are seeing here, okay, all the data will be traversed here in the bar. You will see, okay. So that has basically limited data you can transfer. So let's say whenever you send a get request, the data will go like this. Let's say user, password, okay, and then here as a part of the URL itself. So here there are two parts. Okay, one is the URL and one is the URI. Okay, so let me just write it down here. Okay, another URL and URI. This is universal resource locator. Universal resource identifier. So let's say first of all we have, let's say, this URL like this: http colon localhost 8080. Okay, so this is basically identify that where exactly my application is running. That means it's a universal resource locator. And after that I'm putting some context root and let's say specific, let's say index.jsp. So maybe you can consider this part or maybe this part. This is called the universal resource identifier. Okay, at least you can consider this whole, because it might be possible in my one on localhost there could be multiple application running. Multiple application might be running, but out of this multiple application I'm interested in this application. In this application I'm interested in this page. So you are identifying the resource, exit resource, what you need. That's why this URI and URL is another concept. These are the basic. Okay, I'm just trying to explain the basic thing. Now get and post again. So it will go by here. So you can see like get and post. So get, this is a difference. Get is not secure, post is secure. You can send large amount of the data because it's not going, let's say in the case of the post, data will be go as a part of the body. Okay, you can see like the message body, it will not go as a part of the URL itself. So this is the difference. Like there are a couple of get is another thing. Let's say another, this interview question. Get request is idempotent, post is not idempotent. Idempotent means, let's say whenever you are defining, let's say I want to send a get type of request to the server. Let's say when user basically, let's say login page example, let's say login button is, let's say idempotent, it's a get request. If you click multiple time, it will send multiple, it will not send multiple requests. It means second request will be ignored until the first request will be delivered. If you click multiple times, okay, and if it is get type of request, then server will ignore, but in the post it will not ignore. Okay, so we'll see in the example, like what exactly the get and post, how can you differentiate between get and post. So get basically mainly used, like get doesn't mean that it is not sending data from the client to server. Just take an example. Let's say you are creating a registration page. Okay, what exactly you're filling some information, some form, and click on submit. Submit means you can submit the data two ways, either in the get form or the post form. The best way to submit the data in the form of the post. Okay, so if you want to submit the data in the get form, just send the small data, basically small thing which can identify the resource. Don't send the data basically using get request. Okay, so that's basically the more important thing. Get request is more efficient and use more than post. Post request is less efficient. Okay, so these are the basically difference. Okay, get versus post. So just try to understand that little bit. Now let's try to understand the container and server. Okay, so now let me just try to explain a little bit. So let's say we have installed Apache Tomcat. Okay, Apache, there are two things are basically here. Web server and Tomcat is a container. This guy is written in Java purely. Okay, so how it will look like? Let's say this is my server. Okay, this is Apache, whatever you can say, web server. Okay, so now we have basically Tomcat inside the web server. Okay, so this is Tomcat container and this is the web server. Okay, so Apache and inside Tomcat. So now basically we are going to write our servlets. Servlet is nothing but a Java program. Okay, I'm going to come to that soon, but servlet is nothing but a simple Java program. It's not a magic. So now let's say this is browser. Okay, so you are basically, let's say, requesting HTTP localhost 8080 / your context root and / let's say index.jsp, or maybe let's say some other URL. The request will go here. Like first of all, it will be handled, let's say, by the web server, and then basically it will transfer to the Tomcat, and then Tomcat will basically call the servlets, get the response back. It will give here, and then it will return here. So this is basically how, let's say, inside the web server you have Tomcat. Tomcat is written in Java purely. Okay, so this is the communication protocol. Let's say all the communication are happening in the HTTP protocol. Okay, so basically like HTTP protocol, then Tomcat will call the servlets, and servlet will send a response back. So once we create a simple servlet, at the time it will be more clear, but this is how basically it is written here. Okay, so if you go container, okay, so same thing. Okay, web server, servlet, container, request, response. Okay, everything is basically written here. Let's say standalone, in process, out of process. So what exactly the container? Container is the boss. Okay, so container in the case of the web application, in the servlet application, I mean, so container is doing all these activities like lifecycle management. We already learned one lifecycle. Okay, thread lifecycle. So now we are going to learn different lifecycle of the servlet, multi-threaded support, object pooling. We already learned the object pooling, thread pooling. Okay, so if you see, everything is Java. Okay, don't worry. If your fundamental of the core Java is clear, then this is nothing. Now you can see security, etc. All these basically things will be provided by the container. Application service, application server versus web server. Just go ahead and read it a little bit. Just a theory, but it's important. Content type. So just take an example. Let's say there are different content type. Request and response both has a different content type. So let's say text, plain. Just take an example. Let's say when you're uploading some file. Let's say downloading. Let's say you're downloading the jar file. So let's say, just imagine, let's say whenever you're trying to download the jar file, your browser doesn't try to render the content. If it is a PDF, your browser is trying to render. So based on the response, okay, request and response. So client is sending a request to the server, server is responding back. So whenever client is sending a request, along with the request, client will tell what kind of data I'm passing to you, whether it's a text or it's a application MS Word file or a jar file or a PDF file, uploading the file. Okay, example. Now let's say downloading a file. Server will tell the client that what kind of data I'm sending it to you. So based on the data type, whatever the response type of data, content type, browser can take a decision whether I need to render on the screen or I need to directly start downloading. Okay, so content, there are different content type. It's very important to understand what are the different. So that is also basically we're going to see in a practical example, but this is important to understand. So these are the basic web terminologies. Okay, web application terminology. There is nothing new basically I'm doing here. Okay, so what is servlet? Servlet technology is used to create a web application. So in this world, any technologies which is written on top of the web application, okay, on top of the on top of the Java, those basics is servlet. Without servlet, you cannot write any web application. Okay, without that, you cannot write any web. The base of all the application is only servlet. Okay, so servlet is the base of all the frameworks in this world, whatever is written based on the Java. Okay, so servlet technology is robot scalable because of the Java language before. Okay, so like it's a servlet technology, everything is written. Servlet is an interface, okay, in Java. Servlet is in, well, now we let's go a little bit in the coding part. So servlet technology is used to create a web application. Servlet is an API, provides the application and classic interfaces. Okay, servlet is an interface, must be implemented by the servlet. Servlet is a class. It's not a class. Okay, basically it's an interface. But internally there is a class. Okay, internally it is creating a class out of the servlet, but you don't need to worry about that class. Servlet is a web component that deploy the application server to create dynamic web page. So there's basically we are going to see like what is the advantage of the servlet. So now let's say here is web application. You can see like currently web server, web container. There could be, let's say right now I'm accessing the Java point. There could be a lot of other people are also accessing the web application. So you can see like many people are accessing the request, and then it's a multi-threaded. Okay, so we container is supporting multi-threaded. So it's a multi-threaded application. So these are the basically different things. It's a theory. Okay, just make sure that you read the theory. I'm not going to cover too much in details, so you guys can read it. Servlet API. So now onwards. Okay, so whatever the classes and interfaces we are going to learn, those classes and interfaces are all part of the Java X. Okay, so advanced Java, all the interfaces and classes are earlier basically you see like java.util, java.lang. Okay, all those different packages which were starting from Java. Now everything is starting from the Java X. In the Java X.servlet, we have specific to some of the classes interfaces which are related to HTTP. So right now it's open for extension. On servlet might be supporting only HTTP, but Java technology, like always, open for extension, closed for modification. This is a principle. Okay, so you can basically, for now we have all the HTTP related stuff is inside the HTTP package. Now these are the interfaces. Okay, so servlet request, servlet response. These are the interfaces. So no need you to mug up right now. By end of this class, okay, servlet, you might be having all this clear. Okay, so all these interfaces and classes will be clear. So don't basically spend time here to understand each and everything on okay, I'm not able to understand. Don't worry. So these are the classes in the Java.servlet, generic servlet, servlet input stream. These are the different classes. Now these are the different classes interfaces in the HTTP package. Okay, we are going to mainly focus on this one later. Okay, HTTP side. Now these are the classes. Okay, so no need to spend much time here. I'm going to basically cover like at the end of these servlet lessons, you might come across everything. Okay, all these classes and interfaces. So no need to spend time over here right now. Instead, we can move further and then we can create one example. So as I mentioned, okay, so let's try to create one simple servlet. Okay, so this is our project. Servlet is nothing but a Java program. So let's just create one simple servlet. Okay, let's say my first servlet. Okay, so I'm just creating one simple class. Servlet is nothing but a Java class. Okay, so I'm just creating my simple servlet. Okay, so now what we need to do, we need to implement servlet interface. Okay, you need to implement the servlet interface. Now you can see here, servlet is not found here. Okay, servlet is not found. So what we need to do, we need to put some dependency in the pom.xml because servlet is not part of by default any library. So we need to basically change. Okay, so let me just here instead of 1.7, let me just put 1.8. Okay, now basically I'm just gonna go on the internet. Okay, let's say I can find out servlet Maven dependency. Okay, I can use, let's say 4.0.1.1. Okay, whatever the version you would like to use, just put this dependency. So these are the basic steps. Okay, we are doing. Okay, now if you click here, you will find, or Control Shift O, you will find import servlet, javax.servlet. Now it will give me some error. Why? Because servlet is an interface. By default, I'm trying with the basic, okay, basic. So I need to there are some there. If you see here, there are some of the abstract methods. Okay, all are there are so many abstract methods, right? These all are the abstract method. Okay, so whenever you are extending this class, you must provide the implementation of implement this interface. You must provide all the methods. Okay, so all 5 methods. Okay, so now you can see here we have init method, we have get servlet config, we have service method, and then so get servlet config, servlet info, and destroy method. So now let's try to put basically system.out.println everywhere. Okay, so now basically I'm putting, let's say, inside init. Okay, I'm not going to use this one for now. Let's say put in service method. Okay. Inside destroy. Right now I'm just putting like this. Okay, so now there are different ways basically to map with this with the URL. Okay, so now this is very important concept we need to learn right now. So let's say here basically you define, there are different ways. Okay, either you can use the web.xml to define this as a servlet, but let's first use the simplest way. Okay, let's say web servlet. Okay, we are defining here, and then I'm saying that whenever I'm putting, let's say, slash demo. Okay, then basically this against the URL pattern. Okay, we are defining any servlet which is served against the URL pattern. So these are the annotation. Based on that, your application will basically work. Okay, so now let's see let's see what is happening now. Okay, so let's say now I'm gonna basically run this application again. Let's see what happened. Okay, currently something is running. Stop it. Okay, so now let me just do run it again. Okay, just a minute. Let me just do one thing. Let me just in this run the service method. Let me just here basically we have response dot get writer dot write. Okay, let me just run it. Okay, right now it's not going to render my servlet anything. Okay, but why? Because I have put this URL, it says slash demo. Then you can see it is coming from, you can see first time it is calling inside init and then inside service. Okay, now let's say anytime basically I will do here, it will go in the service method. Init method will call only once in a once time. Okay, then service method, whenever you are calling this URL, it will call the service method. Service method is basically serving all the time. Okay, so you can see here like init method will call only once, and then the service method is the main method which is serving the content. Okay, this will be called all the time. So you can see like now how things were working. So now let's try to understand the basic fundamental again. Okay, so now what we have done. Okay, so let's say this is my browser. Okay, I'm just hitting slash demo. Okay, then basically it will go here. This is my server. Okay, so basically here basically let's say this is a web server, this is Tomcat, and then basically I have created one servlet, right? My servlet, my first servlet or something. Okay, here basically I have all this method, right? Let's say init, service, destroy method. So let's say whenever you call the request with slash demo, then container. Okay, so web application will tell, okay, that I get some request type get. Okay, so whenever I because this is the type of request I'm sending is get type of request, because I'm directly hitting in the browser. So the type of request is get, and I'm asking that, okay, I need this resource, okay, against which is map against this URL. So now whenever you are starting your application, starting your Tomcat, at that time, all these annotations at the rate web servlet and all these annotations, and then whatever the URL pattern we have given. Okay, so this all will be memorized by the Tomcat. So whenever browser will ask, hey, I want this resource against this URL, which is configured. So then what it is, Tomcat will check, okay, against this demo, okay, what is the class name? What is the class I need to call? Okay, my first sublet. And then here basically, okay, first time it is calling, okay, then call the init method. Okay, if it is, then basically call the service method. Then second time, the same page is getting requested by another user, let's say user 2. This is user 1. Again, let's say slash demo. It will not call the init method, directly service method. So init method will call only once. And then all the time the service method. Okay, so here there is no main method. Okay, so your program does not have the main method. Okay, so if you see here, there is no main method here. Okay, so who is calling? Okay, so let's say now you can see like in log, this all the things are printing in service, inside init. These all are the instance method init and all this. So without creating an object, nobody can call the method in Java, right? Let's say if you want to call an instance method without creating an object, there is no way. So who is doing all this magic? Who is calling this init method? Who is calling this service method? Who is doing all this thing on your behalf? You are not doing, you are just configuring. You are just writing your logic here. You are not doing anything. So all the magic is being done by container. You are just instructing the container, okay, that, okay, I want this behavior, okay, in the form of annotations right now. Okay, so in the form of the annotations. And then container will perform rest of the things for you. Container will create an object of this class. Container will create an init method first time, and second time onwards it will not call the init method, and then second time onwards directly it will call the service method, and then all these things will be taken care by the container. So container is the boss here. Okay, so container is creating an object. That's why object pooling, multi-threaded support, everything, if you remember in another image, that was there. Okay, so this is basically very, very basic. So now let's say I want to achieve the same thing using web.xml. Okay, let's say I want to just comment out this one. Okay, so now let's say I want to achieve the same thing using web.xml. Okay, so let's say I open the web.xml. So this is the main file. Okay, web.xml is right now it is empty. Okay, so now let's say I want to achieve the same thing. So there are different tags here. Let's say servlet. Let's say here servlet. There are two. Okay, inside the servlet, there are two tags. Let's say servlet class and servlet name. Okay, so let's say I want to give this servlet as a name as, let's say, demo. What is my servlet class? Okay, let's say this is my package name, right? Okay, let's say demo web, demo, fully qualified name, demo web 0509 dot my first servlet. Okay, this is basically your servlet class. Okay, whatever the class, this is Java file, but you are giving a class here. Now let's say mapping. Okay, second thing is a mapping. So mapping has two things: servlet name and URL pattern. So servlet name is the same name whatever you are giving here. So this is a short name you are giving here. Let's say demo, and URL pattern is I want to give, let's say, slash demo. The same thing. Okay, so this number of lines are equivalent to one line. This one, same thing. Okay, so now let's say I stop the server. Okay, and I start the application. Okay, I'm just changing the URL to /demo. The same thing, like I am trying to achieve the same thing. No difference at all. One with basically configuration in the web.xml, one with the annotation. Okay, nowadays most of the people are using annotations, but it is important to understand the web.xml configuration too at the same time. Now, let me just show you one more thing. I don't know to hardcode this. Okay, let's say I don't know to change the URL. So what I can do here, basically, let's say sometimes I forget. Okay, href equal to /demo. Okay, so here click me. Okay, so okay, I just need to make make one more change here. I don't need to put here /. Okay, so there's a relative path, and then it's basically kind of relative, and that's for you. Okay, relative and start from root. Okay, root. So that's what basically if I put the /demo, then you can see here it's removing this part. Okay, so I want to append the demo here. Okay, so let me just go ahead and refresh it. Okay, you can see I click and then I'm getting the response from the servlet. Servlet is nothing but a Java program, so I'm getting the dynamic content. Okay, from the backend. So these are the content is coming dynamically. So now you can put more logic. You can get the data from the database. There are so many things we can do, but now this is a basic format. Okay, very basics. This is what basically I wanted you to do, like basic hello world servlet.